So another day, another opinion on Colin Kaepernick's controversial decision not to stand up for the national anthem over the past few weeks. Today's opinion comes from Team USA hockey coach John Tortorella, who told our Linda Cohn, quote, "When I asked Team USA coach John Tortorella about Kaepernick protest, he told me if any of my players sit on the bench for the national anthem, they will sit there the rest of the game." Linda says Tortorella will be on SportsCenter later today. Well, she'll ask him more about his comments to further explain. Stephen A., what's your reaction to what he said about his players will sit the whole game?
I think it's shameful. I'll go as far as to say that I think it's un-American. And I think that if this is the coach of Team USA and he's taking that position, then he should be stripped of his duties and he shouldn't be allowed to represent the United States of America. And I mean that sincerely. I'm not casting any personal aspersions on John Tortorella. I do not know him. I don't recall ever meeting him, maybe one time when he used to coach the Rangers and I was at the Garden doing a radio show or whatever. But I don't know him from a can of paint. I'm not casting any aspersions on his character or anything like that. I'm only speaking about this particular issue and incident itself. Let's be clear about something here. I've been on the record talking about how if the NFL wanted to insist that people stand for the national anthem or whatever, it's perfectly within their right to do so. They are a private industry. They are looking for millions upon millions of Americans to patronize their product. I understand that. If the NBA were to do such a thing, which they do, I understand that. You're a private industry. But when you talk Team USA, that's the red, white, and blue. That's the United States of America. All right? That's not private entities or anything like that. That's the United States of America. So think about that for a second. You have the United States Constitution. The First Amendment specifically stipulates the freedom of speech. This is what Colin Kaepernick chose to do. You are saying that if he chose to exercise his right as an American citizen, you, representing the United States, would then turn around and punish him for the very rights this country has bestowed upon its citizens? If that is not un-American, I don't know what is. So as far as I'm concerned, the problem is not with Colin Kaepernick here. It is with John Tortorella, who should be stripped of his title as coach of Team USA unless he changes his stance. He has absolutely, unequivocally no right whatsoever to bench any of his players who elects to exercise their First Amendment rights, because when you are a member of Team USA, you are proudly representing the red, white, and blue and all that it stands for, not just the parts you like. And that's the key point to make here. If it's the NFL or a private entity like MLB or NBA, that's entirely different. Not Team USA. The problem is not with Kaepernick here. It's not with any players who wants to emulate the stance that Colin Kaepernick took. It is with John Tortorella. And I'm glad and I'm proud that Linda Cohn, our colleague here at ESPN, obviously does the outstanding job that she always does. And she interviewed him because she knows her hockey.
No question.
It's really disappointing to hear him say that because, again, this is not about hockey. It's not about the national anthem. It's about your right to take the position that you want to take without having to worry about repercussions or ramifications of the like. As a member of Team USA, for him to boldly state that, I believe he should have to apologize publicly immediately, because I'm hearing he's going to be interviewed on SportsCenter within the hour. He should have to apologize immediately, or he should be stripped of his title as coach of Team USA.
I understand if the United States is in an international competition where the coach of Team USA might say, look, on the one hand, we should be proud to protest even publicly, even globally on an international stage, because it points out that the way we do things is actually the right way. You're not allowed dissent in many of the countries against whom we compete. You are allowed dissent in this country, and we should be proud of that. However, I also understand if the idea is, look, if you do that, this can serve as propaganda against the United States by authoritarian regimes and worse. So maybe if Team USA is involved in international competition, let's all stand for the American flag and present the united front to the rest of the world and not air our dirty laundry in international competition. All that said, I totally agree with the idea that this is an abuse of power. And the question is, why does he feel so comfortable? Like, there are covert abuses of power. That's in secret. Yep. Little pressure that you can exert in the workplace and in other places in subtle ways and not so subtle ways that kind of maintain the status quo. If you support the status quo, we all stand for the national anthem. That's one thing that we all do. But when it crosses over to an overt message, to overt pressure, when the coach feels comfortable enough to say, it's not just behind closed doors that I'm going to create this kind of atmosphere that exerts pressure for everyone to behave the way I want them to, but I am actually going to explicitly state that this is what I'll do if you don't. The question is, why does he feel comfortable enough in his position of power to abuse his power in that way?
Okay.
And I think one of the answers is that people who support the status quo see the cultural landscape shifting underneath their feet and don't like it, you know, and feel that now is the time to insist on their view of cultural norms. This is the way it should be, and I will exercise my power overtly, explicitly, in order to maintain the status quo. And when you do that, you get yourself in trouble. Here, I agree. He's made it explicit, and he has crossed the line.
He's crossed the line, with no question about it, and I appreciate you saying that. And, you know, listen, this is a debate show, and Max and I are going to be in a lot of conflicts.
Yeah.
But there are times when you not only agree, but you need to agree on certain things. I really, really would implore citizens of the United States of America, sports fans everywhere, to think about the magnitude of this man's statement. I will bench you if you don't stand for the national anthem. Now, in fairness to Tortorella, I'm told one of his children serves in the military. I'm not sure about that. I think, because I was on Good Morning America this morning, and I think Robin, the great Robin Roberts, the wonderful Robin Roberts, I think she mentioned something about his son has served or is serving. So, in fairness to him, let's be fair by mentioning there's a heightened level of sensitivity that he may have. My response to that is, you'd have a legitimate argument if Colin Kaepernick said, bump the military, I can't stand our country, I can't stand who we represent, and the hell with the military too. He specifically stated that's not what this was about. He was talking about police brutality against African Americans and people of color. Now, we can argue that. I usually say brutality on the part of some police officers, because I want to give most of the police officers the benefit of the doubt, because they do protect and serve our communities and do a wonderful job. But that's what he was alluding to. He specifically stated that. It actually wasn't alluding to it. He stated it. So if he stated that, and he said it wasn't the military, and he then followed that up by getting on a knee to make sure the military men and women in San Diego last week, he made sure to try to honor and respect them, then there's no cause for Tortorella to have this position at this juncture. The fact that he does speaks to a level of privilege as a white individual, highly insensitive to the plight of black people, and then he's taking it a step further by literally telling you and enunciating what he will do to you if you don't share his sentiment and his position. It speaks to what America is not supposed to be about. This man has to apologize, or he has to be removed as coach.
There is a conflation going on that Professor Michael Eric Dyson beautifully articulates in his most current,
article on
the Undefeated, right, that there's a conflation between nationalism and patriotism. Nationalism, America, love it or leave it. And this goes for nationalism anywhere. My nation is great no matter what because it's my nation. Versus patriotism, specifically American patriotism, which is love for the country. America, love it, so if there's something wrong, change it. And here, Tortorella is conflating nationalism with patriotism and insisting that patriotism must be nationalism. No, it mustn't.
Yep.
Must not.
Very well said. And Dr. Michael Eric Dyson, his piece is on the Undefeated right now if you want to check that out. I'd love to hear what the players have to say. I'd be interested to hear what Team USA, that hockey team, their thoughts on after hearing the comments. Coming up after the break, Shaq is here. You don't want to miss it.
This is Shaquille O'Neal, and I'm coming up on First Take. Stephen A., I got the tissue for you, baby. Don't cry. Dry your eye. Here comes Shaq, and I'm not a little guy.
Mm.